Let's talk about how to create a histogram in R. You previously have created QQ plots or normal probability plots, which are another way of assessing the normality of a variable. Some examples of what those look like are shown here. Another way of assessing normality is by looking at the histogram or the variable distribution. So if we make a call to the function hist in R, that will generate a histogram for the variable which you specify as the first argument. We're going to look at the daily change in Disney stock value first, just to see what the default histogram function shows us about that variable. We can see the distribution. It looks fairly symmetric with some skew. For more information about how to interpret the histograms, you might refer to your Hawks Learn module or reading. Now, notice if I were going to present this to an audience, some of the information is not clear. For example, what is meant by stocks $DIS daily? They're in the title and on the x-axis. So I would like to clarify those before I present this visualization to anyone. A lot of times, function arguments are similar across functions. So I'm going to reuse this main equal from QQ norm in my histogram function, assuming that that is for the main title. This will not always be the case, but more often than not, you will be lucky in reusing some arguments for functions. What do we want to call this? Let's call it the Disney daily change in stock value and histogram in this case, rather than our normal QQ plot. Let's see how that looks. Much clearer. I don't have my variable name, which looks like a technical bit of information. Now I have a clear title, but my X label still looks like technical stuff, that variable name. So I need to find how I can change that X label. So I'm going to go to my console window and type in $hist, enter, and that will pull up the help menu for the histogram function, in which I'm going to look at the arguments. There's the main title argument that we've already used. X lab or X label is calling upon the variable name by default. So we would like to change that. I'll copy and paste that into our function that we're working with in the markdown file. And I can change this to a word of my choice by using quotation marks. And let's call it daily change in stock value. See how that works. Notice what it looks like now versus after we run that. Much clearer. Now we're not making a reference to that variable name. However, I'm being redundant in my X label and my main title now, so I might simplify that and take out this from my main title, rerun, great. Now I have clearly shown this is the histogram related to the Disney stock, illustrating the frequencies of the daily change in stock value as a histogram. Then I want to think about and describe whether this exhibits the properties of a normal distribution, like how symmetric does this distribution appear? Is it skewed right or skewed left in any way? Commenting on those sorts of questions is a good way of assessing the normality for any variable looking at its histogram. Now, as you are becoming well familiar with, to replicate this sort of information, once I have things specified as I would like in a function, I can simply reuse all of that code and update what I would like. So for example, if I had wanted to do this histogram for Honda Motor Company, I can change my variable name there and my title here. Everything else looks good. I'll run that. And now I can look at the Honda Motor Company histogram for daily change in stock value, as well as, if I click back here, the Disney histogram. I have both of those in my R Markdown output window. So those are some tips on how to generate histograms in R for your Unit 4 discussion. Here applies.